Hi, my name is Emily. If you've been to Warsaw, then you've seen this building. It's a Palace of Culture and Science on Platz der Travelogue in the centre of town. Like me, this building really stands out here in Warsaw, and indeed in all of Poland. But unlike me, I assume, words such as ugly, even evil, and a big, ugly souvenir of Warsaw's Soviet past have been used to describe it. The real story is a bit more complicated than that, but also much more interesting. And I am going to tell you why. So when you come here and see this palace, you know a bit more about what it's all about, and maybe a bit more about what Warsaw is all about. And to help me, I will need one tour guide and one vegetable, but I'll get to that later. It's true that the palace was the idea of the father of communism himself, Joseph Stalin. He thought he would like to give a gift to the nation of Poland on behalf of the nations of the Soviet Union. And in 1952, when they had that idea, you have to imagine that here, where I'm standing, was all just a pile of rubble. All of the old apartment buildings and streets that had been here were destroyed. But by 1955, just a few years later, this building was here, and there was nothing like it in all of Warsaw. So what did people in Warsaw make of such a building at this time? To find out, it's time to meet our tour guide, Artur.
It is really hard to imagine. The whole center of Warsaw was completely demolished during the Second World War. And this palace was built in the middle of ruins. The height is impressive, 231 meters. At the time it was the second tallest building in Europe, and the second in Warsaw was just 66 meters. It is reflected in the side of the palace. It was possible to see the building from as long as 60 kilometers. And the building was immaculate white, and people were brought from all over the country to present this building as an achievement of the new authority. So people, when they came here, the only thing they could remember that was similar to this building was a church. So very often they knelt in front of this building.
The palace today is home to all kinds of things, including 2 museums, 3 theatres, a university, a cinema, cafes, clubs, a 3,000-seat concert hall, and even a swimming pool. But the most common thing you hear about the palace is that it is a symbol of communism. The communist chapter of Poland's history is a very unhappy one, and unfortunately it's too recent for people to have forgotten it or forgiven it.
And if we can see old pictures of Warsaw, we can notice that whole Warsaw, whole center was one big ruin, and between these ruins we can see Palace of Culture, means power of our big brother Soviet Union. And the building has got a very big pressure on the mind of the people who are here, means that you can feel like very small unit in the big society with any power, very strongly pressed not only by regime but also of these walls.
So Artur, tell me, is this a Soviet building?
It is in a sense, because it was decided to be built by Stalin. But Stalin at the time wanted to have buildings as modern as possible. It means American. Therefore he sent his best architect, Mr. Rudniew, to the States to learn how to design these buildings. And Rudniew learned how to design buildings like Chrysler Building or Empire State Building, or the most notably Manhattan Municipal Building.
So that's kind of the opposite of communism, isn't it?
It is. It's the most American building you could imagine.
And are there Polish influences as well?
Oh, they are. We have roofing similar to the Royal Castle of Wawel in Krakow. We have the tower that is designed like tower of the town hall in Chełmno. And outside at the main entrance you have the statues. The first one is of Mickiewicz, the Polish Shakespeare. And the second one is of Copernic, English name Copernicus. Probably you do not know that he was Polish, but he was. Both statues are sitting statues because the standing statue was meant to be Stalin's. But he died just half a year after the decision of building this palace. So later nobody was really interested in making a statue of a dead person.
And what about these statues? They're pretty Soviet, aren't they?
They are, but they are not made on purpose for this palace. There is a factory in Estonia that produced statues like that for the whole Soviet Empire. And the statues depict people of all races and all crafts, all professions, and they are scattered all around former Soviet Union.
Well, this guy's pretty handsome.
He is not just handsome, he is the most interesting statue because he keeps the book. And the book is written by 4 people, Marx, Engels, Lenin and Stalin. But actually Stalin is rubbed off. So it's a bit sad for the person who decided about the construction of the palace to be even rubbed away from the cover of the book. But it's like this, all signs of communism are taken away from the palace.
The palace here is known as Peking, which is what the letters of its name, the Palace of Culture and Science, spell out in Polish. But it has another nickname, the elephant in lace underwear. Well, I guess it's big and kind of ugly, but hard to ignore. Yes, a bit like an elephant wearing lingerie. So I think that's a good name for it. The architects and planners and thousands of people who built this palace maybe imagined that in 60 years it would be surrounded by a happy, thriving communist paradise, but they were really wrong. In 2008, here it is at the heart of a modern European city. In 2004, Poland joined the EU, and in 2012, if all goes according to plan, it will adopt the euro. So Poland is moving with the times, and the palace is changing too. There has been one change to the outside of the building, and that was in 2001, when the Millennium Clock was added. It's the highest analog clock in the world. But we all know that it's what's inside that really counts, and this is where things are really changing. Like here at Club 55, a nightclub inside the palace. This nightclub is in what used to be a Communist Party ballroom. I can't imagine what Stalin and the Soviet architects who planned this place would make of it now. But I love to come here, listen to the music, and try to imagine. Don't bother coming before midnight though, no one gets here that early. If that's too late for you, you might try checking out the multiplex cinema. It's usually showing some independent films as well as the usual Hollywood stuff. So don't worry, you won't have to watch any educational Soviet films. Or if you prefer, check out Cafe Kulturalna at the Drama Theatre. The entry seems a bit intimidating, but it's worth finding. So this is where we need the vegetable, a radish to be exact, because it was said in Poland that communism was like a radish, only red on the outside. Now I like to think that, like Poland, the palace only has a thin coating of communism. The statues are decoration, some of it looks communist, but when you dig a bit, you find that there is more to the story. So I'll give the palace another nickname, the Giant Radish, but I don't know if it will catch on. These days, everyone agrees that Warsaw wouldn't be the same without the palace. They just don't agree on whether it would be better or worse. As for me, I kind of think this palace is what makes Warsaw distinctive and unique, kind of like me, and it would look a bit empty if it wasn't here. Nothing in life is ever smooth, and Warsaw and its Palace of Culture and Science have been through some tough times, but both of them survived. And now, like Poland, the palace has found its place in the modern world. So when you come to Warsaw and see the Palace of Culture and Science, now I hope you'll understand why it's not just a relic of the past. You can see Warsaw's history in it, of course, but also the present and maybe even how it's approaching the future.
It's not a symbol of communism anymore. We should not forget about the past, but on the other hand, not to stick too much to the past. We should use the historic symbols which left in Warsaw, and one of them is the Palace of Culture, and as a chance to move further, as a chance to use it, the symbol as the symbol of a dynamic city.
If you're here, why don't you ask any Polish person what they think of this place? You won't get the same answer twice, and you'll learn a lot about Polish history and culture in the process. And if you're really interested, call Arto and ask him to show you around inside, because that's really amazing. But unfortunately, it's also a whole other story.